For me, having been a part of the industry for a long time and having been loyal to certain companies and love their product, utilize their product, love to see the innovation in their product, and then staying with it has been really important for me. I know there's this kind of this swinging arm between price of a product and perceived value of a product, and because you can buy something cheaper here, should you switch and go with something cheaper? And for me, it was more about the relationship that I could build on the supply end, so that I knew that I could solve problems or I could innovate, and that supply chain could help me provide. One of the cases for me, and in particular that I'm thinking, is CAFCO Manufacturing, steel wall vinyl liner manufacturer. Built that relationship. In the early days, we bought from a local supplier. There was a local supplier in the area here that provided CAFCO steel. The industry was very fragmented, and they weren't all combined and owned by a few companies. They were all very fragmented, all these steel manufacturers and pool manufacturers. And at that time, CAFCO was distributed through a local supplier here. Loved the product, wanted the product. That supplier closed. Family, the father had died, the kids didn't want anything to do with the company. They split the assets, took what was left, closed the company. And I had an option to either go find another supply chain who provided a different pool kit and all of that. But I went directly to CAFCO Manufacturing and said, look, I would like to still buy your product. There's no one in my area that distributes it. Can I? So I ended up buying from them directly. Hence, enhancing that relationship and building that relationship and getting to know the people within the manufacturing company, not just in the supply chain. Years go on working with them, and again, things start getting bought up, and the industry starts shrinking in terms of who owns what. Latham Industries comes along and starts buying up pool manufacturers, pool steel companies. They buy up CAFCO. Now, had I not been kind of already involved in some of the supply chain stuff, had I not gone to the pool shows and kept interacting on a year-to-year basis with each of these players, that supply chain could have disappeared, and I could have popped over here and sold something else. We look at Latham, big gigantic company, but bought up all these smaller companies that were used to dealing with guys like me, and Latham's looking at a much bigger, broader scope than just the local market, because that's what they do. I could have made all these assumptions that, well, they don't care about me and they don't care about what I do, and never is the CEO or president of the company going to walk through my doors and ever talk to me. And yet, through being at the shows, through being there consistently, through doing something and wanting that attention, because we're really pushing the envelope of what we're doing with that product, with CAFCO, wanting them to understand that they're a supply chain that's helping me create these really cool and amazing projects, which are getting some national attention and getting some acclaim. And lo and behold, through that continuing to show up, now able to have sat and had dinner with presidents of these companies and been in that environment, that puts us in a place where we're connected into the industry. All as a direct result of being a part of it, investing in it, going to shows, investing in people, being around people, showing off what we do, showing them how we do it, being able to share it with other people. Something that I've always believed in is when I have information, I'll always give it, which has allowed me to then interact with other pool companies, because the supply chain would say, hey, could you help this guy? He's having a similar problem that you had. And so I would share and I would help them. And what that's done is it's connected us to a huge portion of the industry, some of the major players in the industry, which being connected is fine. It's not like I have any intention to what I'm going to do with them or not, but you never know when you have those people that recognize and know you, what changes we can make. So if this was purely about me and what I could get, it's one thing, but I'm looking at a much bigger play in this is how can we change the industry? And it's pretty difficult to change the industry as the little guy that no one listens to. Much easier when you have people who are prominently placed in the industry and you're a little guy that has a voice through them. And that's what's happened to us, is that we've been given this voice because we've participated, we've invested, we've You know, it's not cheap to go to shows every year, or 3 or 4 or 5 shows, and fly all over and do all of that, and the expenses of it, but it's worth it because it allows us to work our way into all of the places of the industry so that we can help elevate it, because I think that's really important. And if no one's trying to elevate it, it'll never elevate. But if there's people out there trying to make the industry better, trying to make product better, more higher quality, better standards, more creativity, all of that, then it will get there. That's how change happens. But if no one gives a crap and no one does anything, then nothing ever changes. Everybody doesn't make changes, just a few make changes. And the few that make changes that get noticed make monumental changes. And that's the intent, is how can we just be a better industry? And that's the platform that I speak from, is I want to see us elevate the industry on all levels. Not just the part that I do, because that's just a teeny tiny segment of the industry, but how could we as a whole be better? Number one, being invested by going to trade shows, by being involved, is the first criteria. Every company could do that. Everybody could figure out how to at least go to 1 show or 2 shows a year and be there and participate. Most won't. Most will just wait for someone else's innovation, then they'll just adopt it and use it for a while, and then wait for the next thing. Or in the case of the previous owner of the company that I run, he never wanted to change. There was nothing innovative about it. He wanted to do the exact same thing that he did every year and just wait for the supplier to come to him and tell him what was new that year. And that worked, but that doesn't work. That's a tough model to go by now, because the internet has opened up the possibility for everybody to see anything and everything they want and ask for it. And if you don't know what that is, it takes you out of the game. The guys that stay actively involved, that learn, are going to be the guys that do make changes and that do grow and have successful companies moving forward. And to me, a big part of that is being involved in the industry and being involved in trade shows.